Triumph rarely comes from abrupt miracles. It grows from steady, consistent efforts. The small choices you make daily and the quiet routines guiding your actions shape your journey. When no one's watching, many underestimate how these tiny shifts can quickly amplify progress if given attention. Consider how often you've seen someone suddenly excel, seemingly out of nowhere, and wondered about their secret. It never comes from thin air. It builds quietly, formed by discipline so subtle that others barely notice. There's a reason these routines remain hidden. Most are too busy seeking dramatic breakthroughs, waiting for the perfect moment or opportunity, and they miss the quiet transformations happening right before them. Yet, if you ask those who've truly succeeded, they'll tell you it's the simple, consistent practices that create the biggest results. It doesn't matter where you start or what limitations you face. What matters is your willingness to adopt these often overlooked habits. These habits, though subtle, pack a powerful punch when applied consistently. Progress isn't about complex theories or endless planning. It's about identifying key behaviors, honing them, and nurturing them until they become second nature. That's why we're here, to uncover these 7 hidden habits, the kind that can swiftly and powerfully alter your path more than you'd imagine. Habit No is about creating a window of purposeful solitude. Most people rush from one task to the next, barely pausing. Yet, when you set aside a small pocket of quiet time each day, perhaps early in the morning or before winding down at night, you unlock a powerful space for self-discovery. It's in that space where ideas are born, intentions are set, and clarity emerges. Imagine stepping away from the noise that fills so much of your life. You might sit in a quiet corner of your home or walk gently among the trees if you have that opportunity. The point is to separate yourself from the chaos so you can reflect on what truly matters. You look at where you are, where you're headed, and whether your daily actions align with your deeper purpose. This habit isn't loud or flashy, but it's astonishing how quickly it can reshape your focus. When you engage in purposeful solitude, you break the cycle of mindless activity. Instead of jumping out of bed and immediately rushing into the day's tasks, you spend those first precious minutes gathering your thoughts. You might ponder the goals you've set, consider the tasks you must tackle, and visualize the person you aspire to become. Some people call this a ritual of centering, others simply think of it as a moment to breathe before the storm. Call it whatever you like, but the effect is profound. You begin your day on your terms, rather than letting circumstances decide your mood or direction. Overnight success, in many ways, is the result of how well you manage your mindset. That's why purposeful solitude becomes such a catalyst. You clear away distractions, give your mind permission to wander and wonder, and strengthen your mental foundation. In that quiet moment, you might recognize a pattern that's been holding you back, or dream up a strategy that propels you forward. Without this practice, those insights often go unnoticed, drowned in the whirl of daily life. Many people claim they're too busy for solitude. They think success is about squeezing more into each hour, scurrying from one meeting to the next, staying up late to do more work. Yet, ironically, those who invest a few minutes in deliberate stillness often find they gain more time later. Their decisions improve, their stress decreases, and their problem-solving becomes sharper, because they're not merely reacting to the chaos around them. They're acting from a place of calm intention. A few moments spent in quiet reflection can reveal wasteful habits you didn't even notice. Maybe you realize you're pouring hours into tasks that bring little return, or you spot a simple tweak in your routine that saves you from endless frustration. This kind of clarity rarely arrives when you're sprinting through the day. It arrives when you slow down enough to listen. Some folks prefer to write in a journal during this period, jotting down insights or frustrations to see them more objectively. Others meditate, focusing on their breath to quiet the mind. Some simply stare out the window, letting the day's demands settle into place. The method is less important than the result. If you step away from the noise long enough to gather your thoughts, you'll find a sense of composure that radiates through the rest of your hours. This habit might appear too gentle to produce dramatic changes overnight, yet watch what happens when you practice it daily. You begin each day with clarity instead of confusion, direction instead of drift. Over the course of weeks, those small moments of calm build upon each other, granting you a level of foresight and internal stability that's invaluable. Become less reactive, more deliberate. You notice opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You tap into an inner wisdom that doesn't speak in the midst of chaos. It whispers in the quiet space you create. Some call this a thinking time or a quiet hour. Call it whatever fits your style, but do it. Consistency matters, even if you start with 5 or 10 minutes. The key is to make it a non-negotiable part of your schedule. This is how you transform your mind from a scattered array of reactions into a focused tool for creation. Successful people across every field often cite this practice as their secret weapon. They know that real breakthroughs come from reflection as much as from action. Without a pause to assess, dream, question, and plan, you're driving forward on autopilot, and autopilot rarely leads you to new horizons. So, in a world that never stops chattering, become the person who carves out that hush, that pause. Let that quiet be the birthplace of your next big leap. That's the first hidden habit, so simple in appearance yet deeply transformative in impact. It sets the stage for all the others, because a mind that's never still rarely discovers its full power. Let this be your first step toward multiplying your success overnight. Next, the second habit revolves around something most folks take for granted, the subtle art of consistent follow-through. It's not simply about finishing tasks on time, it's the deliberate choice to fulfill every promise you make to yourself, no matter how small or routine. Think about the commitments you've set aside, the plans you once put on paper but never fully carried out. Now ask yourself how many missed opportunities lie in those abandoned intentions. When you decide to follow through consistently, you're sending a powerful message to your own mind that your words and your actions are aligned. It's amazing how quickly confidence grows when you prove day by day that you keep your word, even to yourself. People often assume discipline is about forcing yourself to do tasks you hate, but it's really a matter of trust, trusting that each time you say you'll do something, you actually do it. Over time, this builds a rock-solid belief in your own capabilities, and that belief manifests in the results you see. The magic here is that consistency doesn't demand colossal leaps. It shows up in small actions repeated faithfully. If you promise yourself you'll read 10 pages each evening, do it every single night. If you commit to waking up at a certain hour, honor that pledge even on days when you're tempted to let it slide. These aren't huge gestures. They're small, steady acts of discipline that knit together into something far greater. The moment you break your own commitment, you create a crack in your foundation, but each time you honor it, you add another layer of strength to your sense of self. People often ask how consistent follow-through can multiply success so quickly. It's simple. It eliminates doubt. When you doubt yourself, you hesitate, weigh options endlessly, procrastinate, and let second thoughts derail your focus. But a track record of follow-through quiets that doubt. You know that if you say you'll do something, you will. And that confidence frees up mental space for bolder ambitions. Suddenly, you're tackling things that used to intimidate you, taking on projects you would have otherwise sidestepped. Others notice this consistency too, and it raises their trust in you, opening doors you never knew existed. Yet many people falter because they set too many goals at once, trying to overhaul their entire life in a single sweep. They confuse enthusiasm with execution, only to watch those plans crumble. A wiser approach is to pick a few key targets. Maybe it's one health habit, one professional routine, and one personal growth activity, then commit wholeheartedly. Every day you chip away at them, no drama, no overthinking. This quiet, understated approach might seem unimpressive at first, but it's remarkably effective. Think about someone who decides to send one thoughtful message each day to a potential mentor or client. That might not appear life-changing, but let a month pass, and they've sent around 30 messages, some of which forge valuable connections. Give it a year, and they've initiated hundreds of relationships. That's the compounding power of consistent follow-through. Meanwhile, someone else might fire off a big flurry of messages for 1 week, lose steam, then vanish altogether, gaining nothing but a few fleeting sparks of interest. The difference isn't brilliance or luck. It's the habit of continuing a simple task over and over. Another subtle effect of this habit is how it aligns your internal world with your external actions. When your mind knows you don't follow through, it grows reluctant to dream big. Why invest energy in visions that might fizzle out tomorrow? But show your mind a pattern of kept promises, and it rewards you with bolder ideas, more creativity, and a willingness to take calculated risks. You become your own ally rather than your own worst critic. Of course, obstacles will arise. There will be days when your motivation dips, when your schedule runs haywire, or when unexpected events demand your attention. But that's the test. Do you find a way to uphold your commitment, even if it means a shorter workout, a quicker reading session, or a more focused minutes of work in the evening? This is how you solidify the habit, by finding solutions instead of excuses. Consistency doesn't mean you never adapt or improve your goals. If you realize a certain routine isn't serving its purpose, refine it. The key is to avoid quitting altogether. Quitting resets your momentum to zero, forcing you to build it from scratch. Adjusting your methods, on the other hand, keeps you moving forward, guided by the principle that you always finish what you start, in whatever capacity you can manage. When you view consistency as a matter of personal integrity rather than raw willpower, it becomes easier to maintain. You're no longer wrestling with, should I do this? You're simply fulfilling a vow you made to yourself. And that vow, kept day in and day out, plants seeds that soon grow into the outcomes you desire. The real allure of consistent follow-through is how rapidly it can shift your life trajectory. It's not the effort of a moment, but the repeated effort that seems to multiply your results almost overnight. The more you stick to your small, daily promises, the more traction you gain, and the easier it becomes to tackle bigger dreams with confidence. That's the hidden power behind what appears so ordinary. While everyone else flounders in half-finished attempts, you quietly stack one finished task after another, building a tower of credibility and achievement. Looking from the outside, people might wonder how you soar ahead so quickly. They'll call it luck or timing, not realizing how many little promises you fulfilled in the background. Let them call it luck. You'll know the truth. Consistent follow-through is its own kind of magic, one you create day by day, choice after choice. So adopt this habit, protect it like a treasure, and watch as it simplifies your journey to success by removing uncertainty and boosting your personal credibility. Next, the third habit is being strategically generous. Most people assume generosity is merely about giving away resources or time. Yet there's a deeper angle. When you share knowledge, lend support, or extend a helpful hand with clear intention, you're not just being kind, you're forging relationships and inviting reciprocity that can ignite your path to success. It's easy to overlook how giving of yourself can multiply your returns. Think about those times you offered a friend a crucial piece of advice, or connected an acquaintance to the right person at the right moment. Often, such gestures come back around in unexpected ways, maybe a new opportunity, a key introduction, or a valuable insight that arrives just when you need it. Of course, the real power lies in doing this consistently, without always looking for a return. That's where the magic happens. You create a circle of goodwill that seems to open doors. Strategic generosity doesn't mean flinging your resources in all directions. It's about discerning where your help can truly make a difference and aligning that difference with your personal or professional aims. Let's say you're looking to grow a particular skill or break into a new circle. You might offer to assist someone already established there, solving a small problem for them or lightening their load. This doesn't just give you a chance to learn more about that realm, it lets you earn trust, and trust, once built, paves the way for deeper collaborations and the sorts of referrals that can catapult your progress overnight. Some might question whether such giving can be manipulative. The answer hinges on intention. Genuine generosity comes from a place of mutual benefit, not secret agendas. You're not scheming, you're offering genuine help, trusting that positive connections yield positive results. When your motives are genuine, people sense it. They appreciate the support and are often eager to reciprocate. Over time, you build a reputation as someone who contributes more than they extract, and that reputation is priceless. Consider the age-old advice, to be interesting by being interested. This principle applies here. Instead of always promoting yourself, ask how you can help others achieve their objectives. Whether it's sharing a clever workaround you discovered, recommending a resource you trust, or simply being a patient listener, these small acts of generosity stand out. People rarely forget the person who lightens their burden. In circles of business or artistry, that kind of memory can circle back at opportune times. Perhaps you're the first to be recommended for a new project, or someone calls you up with a can't-miss proposition. Strategic generosity requires recognizing that your knowledge, experiences, and even your network have value beyond money. You might offer to introduce two people who could benefit from knowing each other. It costs you almost nothing, yet might transform their ventures, leading both of them to see you as an invaluable connector. In the short term, that might look like a small favor. In the long run, you've positioned yourself as a central node in a web of influential relationships. People often underestimate how quickly goodwill compounds. They fear they'll end up giving and giving without receiving, but the nature of generosity, when done thoughtfully, is that it fosters an environment of collaboration. Those you've helped typically feel invested in your success too. A single introduction might lead to countless possibilities, each one branching into further growth. But none of that comes into being if you hold back, always waiting for others to make the first move. Some folks worry that they don't have enough to give. They assume generosity is for those with substantial wealth or extensive experience, but that's not the case. Even if you're at the start of your journey, you can still share a sincere recommendation, volunteer your time for a local cause, or lend a helping hand to someone grappling with a skill you possess. Perhaps you're organized or have a knack for effective communication. Those talents can prove invaluable to someone who's lacking them, forging a bond that might later open a door you never saw coming. Strategic generosity is a way to keep your own ego in check by turning your focus outward. You stop obsessing over your own obstacles and begin to see broader possibilities. The moment you contribute to someone else's breakthrough, you get an up-close look at how progress actually happens. You see that success is rarely a lone endeavor. It's an interwoven dance of give and take. Once you've tasted the satisfaction of helping another person leap forward, you realize how fulfilling it is, an energy that spurs you to higher ambitions for yourself. This habit, perhaps more than others, can feel intangible. Unlike a strict regimen of hours worked or a daily routine, strategic generosity doesn't always yield an immediate chart to measure. Yet, ironically, it can unlock more doors than any well-honed skill. A single act of kindness might lead to a conversation that changes your entire trajectory. It's not predictable, but it's highly potent. Cultivating this habit starts with a mindset shift from what can I get to what can I give. Each day, look for small ways to ease another's burden or strengthen a connection. Over time, your name becomes associated with genuine help rather than opportunistic gain. In a world where trust is precious, that reputation can multiply your success faster than any solo effort ever could. So, yes, strategic generosity might sound contradictory in a culture that celebrates hustle and ambition, but in truth, it's one of the most direct ways to accelerate your momentum. You create allies instead of rivals, cultivate loyalty in place of fleeting transactions, and embed yourself in networks that continuously broaden your horizons. People start rooting for you, recommending you, and celebrating your wins. That's the secret behind this unassuming yet mighty habit. When you help others flourish, you inevitably grow along with them. Next, habit number 4 focuses on daily knowledge expansion. Some folks think learning stops once you leave the classroom or master a particular skill for your job, yet those who truly excel recognize that each day offers fresh lessons, often hidden in plain sight. Embracing a habit of ongoing study or self-education sets you apart in a world where too many rely on stale information and guesswork. Imagine devoting a small slice of every day to sharpening your mind. Perhaps you read a chapter of a book that challenges your thinking, or you listen carefully to a mentor's insight, or even commit time to practicing a skill you've yet to perfect. Over time, those daily steps add up. The knowledge compounds, broadening your perspective and allowing you to spot solutions and opportunities others miss. If you're looking for a secret that can nearly guarantee you're miles ahead 5 years from now, this is it. Never let a day pass without absorbing something new. Some might argue they have no time for reading or reflection, but that often means they've prioritized trivial pursuits or mindless distractions. Think about all the little windows of idle time that slip away, waiting for someone to arrive, pacing around the room with nothing to occupy your mind, or letting your thoughts run in circles without direction. If you spend even half of those moments in purposeful learning, reading a page, reviewing notes, studying a new language, or analyzing what worked or didn't work in your recent project, you'd be astonished by how much your intellect grows. It's not just about new information, though. It's about connecting the dots. A daily learning habit forces you to align fresh insights with your existing goals, turning raw data into genuine wisdom. That's where breakthroughs arise. When a concept from a seemingly unrelated field sparks an answer to a problem you've wrestled with for weeks, the mind loves to cross-pollinate ideas. But it can't do that if you feed it the same stale material day after day. Some of the most successful people in history were voracious learners, not necessarily by sitting in formal lectures, but through books, thoughtful discussions, hands-on experimentation, or simply paying keen attention to the world around them. They treated each day as a lesson, asking what they could glean from every encounter, every setback, every unexpected twist. Over weeks and months, that approach multiplies your capacity because you're constantly growing, always refining your edge. This habit involves a willingness to question your own assumptions. Maybe you think you know how a certain process works, or you assume you've mastered a technique, so you stop seeking input. That's a common trap. The moment you believe there's nothing left to learn, you stop expanding, and before long, you'll be overtaken by those who keep their minds open. A daily learning routine guards you against the arrogance of thinking you've arrived at the summit. There's always another peak to climb. Let's say you choose a subject that directly fuels your ambitions. Perhaps you're trying to build a thriving enterprise, so you read about negotiations, study case histories of successful ventures, or immerse yourself in the experiences of seasoned entrepreneurs. Every evening, you absorb a chapter, taking notes on what resonates. Then, each morning, you integrate a small piece of that knowledge into your routine. You might try a new approach with a client or test a productivity method gleaned from someone else's journey. Suddenly, you're not just collecting information, you're applying it, refining it, making it your own. There's tremendous value in revisiting what you've already learned. Many folks read a book once, Nod in agreement at some brilliant points, then forget most of it. Returning to core principles cements them in your mind. That's one reason note-taking proves so powerful. It allows you to revisit key insights later, solidifying them into your daily thinking. Some people keep a small notebook by their side, jotting down aha moments as they occur. Others reflect on the day's lessons before bed, summarizing what stood out. Either way, consistency in documenting and revisiting ensures the knowledge doesn't slip through your fingers. Another powerful aspect of daily learning is that it keeps you adaptable. The world can shift fast, markets fluctuate, technology evolves, opportunities appear in unexpected places. While your competitors might rely on what they learned long ago, you're keeping pace with the changing landscape. You spot trends early, pivot more swiftly, and develop resilience that comes from never being caught off guard. This habit, therefore, isn't just about accumulating facts. It's about positioning yourself to respond creatively when the environment shifts. Some wonder how daily learning affects your mindset. Well, each time you acquire a fresh piece of knowledge, you reinforce the idea that growth is continuous. You remind yourself you're a work in progress, and that humility keeps you alert to new possibilities. You gain a sense of progression even if you're facing setbacks in other areas. You can mark small daily victories just by expanding your understanding a bit further. This builds optimism and counters the frustration of slow-going circumstances. What can you learn each day? It might be a story from someone you admire, a strategy you stumbled upon, or a simple tweak to your routine. It might even be reflecting on your own mistakes to see what they can teach you. The specifics aren't as important as the constancy of it. Every single day, you add another brick to the structure of your expertise. When people talk about sudden success, they rarely mention the quiet hours spent in daily learning. Yet, that's often the hidden force behind dramatic leaps. Those leaps aren't random. They happen when a stockpile of insights collides with an opportunity. If you haven't built up that reservoir, even the best opportunity can slip past you because you're not ready to seize it. So, take on the habit. Block out the time. Maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's in the afternoon, or maybe it's after dinner, but make it non-negotiable. Treat it like any other commitment because it will pay you back 100-fold. You'll notice your conversations becoming sharper, your decisions more informed, your instincts more reliable. With each new insight, you expand the perimeter of your potential. That's how daily learning multiplies success faster than most realize. Next, the fifth habit is consciously shaping your environment. People often underestimate how much their surroundings dictate their behavior. Yet if you've ever rearranged a room and suddenly felt more at ease or more motivated, you've witnessed the power of environment. It's not just about the physical items around you, though that certainly matters, but about the mental and social climate you cultivate. Imagine how your day feels if you wake up to chaos. Clutter on every surface, half-finished tasks scattered about, interruptions from every corner. That's a recipe for distraction and lethargy. By contrast, if you arrange your space thoughtfully, storing away what's not needed, keeping tools visible that prompt productive action, you set yourself up for success before the day even begins. A tidy desk might sound trivial, but it sends a signal to your mind that you value order, that you're ready to focus, and that no extraneous mess will rob your energy. However, environment isn't limited to physical arrangement. It includes the people you see, the conversations you engage in, and the overall tone of your social sphere. If the companions in your circle often complain, discourage new ideas, or scoff at big ambitions, that negativity seeps into your thoughts. Suddenly, your own excitement dims, replaced by doubts you didn't have before. Conversely, when you surround yourself with folks who are driven, supportive, and forward-thinking, it lifts your spirits. It becomes normal to strive for more, to share wins, and to tackle challenges head-on. This concept extends further. Consider how easily you can be derailed by random disruptions. If your living area or work area is full of items that catch your eye, unfinished crafts, notes to self, piles of random papers, it's a magnet for mental wandering. You start one thing, notice another, and jump tasks without ever completing them. But if you streamline that environment, storing things in their proper place, removing objects that serve no immediate purpose, you minimize those pull-away moments. It's like cutting friction out of your day. Some people believe they can power through any setting by sheer will. Maybe they can for a short while, but willpower is finite. If you keep fighting an environment that's working against you, eventually you tire out. The far smarter move is to let your surroundings do half the work. If you want to read more, keep a book by your bedside or your favorite chair. If you plan to practice a skill daily, set that tool in plain sight so you can't ignore it. If you aim to reduce mindless distractions, place a physical barrier between you and whatever tends to derail you. Beyond objects, think of your mental landscape. If your headspace is constantly flooded with worries, regrets, or criticisms, whether from within or from external voices, that becomes the mental environment you live in. Maybe you notice you dwell on errors far too long or replay heated conversations in your mind. All that mental clutter blocks fresh thinking. So, you can consciously adjust your mental environment by choosing a brief reflection each evening, asking what went right, what you learned, and how you'll improve tomorrow. This simple act cleans up mental residue, preventing it from piling up. Think about the influence of routines on environment. If you have no structure to your day, you might drift from one random activity to another, letting outside demands dictate your schedule. But if you carve out specific periods for intense focus, breaks, and planning, you shape your environment and time as well as space. You decide, from this hour to that hour, I'm working on my top priority without interruption. Then you arrange your location. Maybe you move to a quieter spot and signal to others that this is protected time. Another angle is the sensory aspect of the environment. Some people find they think more clearly with a bit of background music, while others do best in silence. Perhaps you prefer a window for natural light or the subtle presence of greenery. These details might seem minor, but they add up, affecting your mood and clarity. A comfortable chair, a layout that feels welcoming. These small touches reduce friction and raise your baseline of well-being. And when your baseline is higher, success becomes less of a strain, more of a natural step. If you share space with family or colleagues, shaping your environment means communicating boundaries in a respectful way. You might need to negotiate a corner that's off limits to clutter or request certain quiet hours. By being clear about your needs, you turn your environment into a partnership, not a battleground. The objective isn't to isolate yourself or push others away. It's to create a setting that fosters focus and mutual respect. Social circles matter too. If your network consistently pulls you into negative chatter or ridicules the notion of growth, you'll find your motivation waning. You can't control everyone's attitude, but you can spend more time with those who encourage, challenge, and guide you. This doesn't mean casting old friends aside. It's about balancing your interactions so that most of your time is spent in uplifting, forward-thinking company. That subtle shift can do wonders for your mindset and ambition level. Altering your environment might begin with little steps. Clearing a single drawer, rearranging a desk to keep important items within arm's reach, moving that tempting distraction out of sight. Over weeks and months, you'll see these incremental changes stack up, each one removing friction and adding support. People might remark you seem so calm and on top of things these days. They don't see the behind-the-scenes effort you've put into crafting your surroundings. Yet that's precisely how environment shaping works. It's unobtrusive but profoundly effective. So much of success hinges on consistent performance. If your environment demands willpower at every turn, you'll tire out fast. But if you shape it to align with your aspirations, removing unnecessary obstacles, curating supportive influences, you free up energy and focus for the real work at hand. Once you embrace this habit, you'll see how rapidly it multiplies your success. Suddenly, tasks that felt like uphill battles become smoother. You're not fighting your surroundings. They're propelling you forward quietly but powerfully. Next, habit number 6 centers on the subtle art of personal accountability. Many people set goals or jot down grand ideas, but when it comes time to track results, especially the missed marks, they avoid the mirror. This is where progress quietly derails. If you never hold yourself accountable, it becomes far too easy to let goals drift, to rationalize slip-ups, and to pretend that next week or next month will magically be different. Picture a person who resolves to finish a project, but never checks whether they're on schedule. Days roll by, tasks are postponed, and the deadline sneaks up like a sudden storm. By the time panic sets in, they scramble in haste or worse, abandon the project altogether, blaming circumstances. This scenario plays out constantly. Yet if that same person simply took 5 or 10 minutes daily to review what got done, what didn't, and why, they'd spot trouble long before it became overwhelming. They'd adapt their plan as needed, maintain steady momentum, and feel far less stress when the deadline arrives. The practice of personal accountability doesn't have to be complicated. A small notebook, a nightly reflection, or a quick mental rundown at day's end can make all the difference. The key is to keep it honest. If you sugarcoat failures, ignore them, or shift blame onto external factors, you learn nothing. But if you confront them, asking what went wrong, what can be improved, and how you'll avoid repeating the slip, then each day becomes a stepping stone, even if it contained a stumble. When you uphold consistent self-checks, you develop a sense of ownership over your life's direction. You stop feeling like events are happening to you and begin to see that your own actions, decisions, and attitudes are steering the ship. That perspective shift is potent. It replaces helplessness with empowerment. You realize that if you fell short today, tomorrow is another chance, and you already know what to correct. No guilt, no shame, just an honest evaluation and a course correction. Personal accountability works wonders for your relationships. When you take ownership of your part in any collaboration, people notice. They see you're not one to pass the buck or hide behind excuses. Over time, this builds trust and respect. So workers, partners, or friends recognize you as someone who's reliable, who acknowledges a mistake and fixes it, rather than concocting justifications. That reputation leads to more opportunities, smoother teamwork, and a healthier social sphere, key ingredients for multiplying success. Here's a crucial point. Accountability is meaningless if it's always a private secret in your head. You might vow to complete a certain milestone by Sunday, only to keep silent if Sunday passes with nothing done. If you're prone to letting yourself off the hook too lightly, consider sharing your milestones with a trusted friend or colleague. When you announce your intentions, you add a layer of external accountability. Maybe you email a colleague, aim to finalize this proposal by the 15th. Ask me about it if you don't hear an update. Now there's an extra nudge that might be enough to keep you on track when you'd otherwise slack off. Some balk at the idea of accountability buddies or public commitments, worried about embarrassment if they fail, but that small discomfort is precisely the push that often leads to follow through. By putting your intentions on the line, you heighten your internal drive to meet them. Fear of letting others see you drop the ball can be a strong motivator for taking action, sometimes more so than any personal pep talk. Yet accountability doesn't mean punishing yourself. It's not a quest to find fault or feed negative self-talk. It's about recognizing your power to influence outcomes. If you adopt a punitive mindset, you risk discouraging yourself from setting ambitious goals in the first place. Instead, approach each slip-up as an opportunity to refine your approach. If a particular strategy isn't yielding results, be honest about it, then pivot instead of wallowing in regret. This habit invites you to celebrate your small wins daily during your self-check. If you notice you completed a task that's been looming for weeks, acknowledge that. Give yourself a pat on the back. However small, positive reinforcement builds momentum, reminding you that yes, your efforts matter, and yes, you can replicate that success tomorrow. By coupling honest self-critique with recognition of achievements, accountability becomes balanced and sustainable. Why does personal accountability multiply success so rapidly? Because it slashes wasted time and hidden failures. When you overlook poor performance or miss deadlines, you keep making the same mistakes. But when you track your commitments meticulously, you'll catch small errors early, correct your course swiftly, and prevent minor missteps from spiraling into bigger setbacks. It's like a daily alignment check, ensuring you remain on the path you intended to walk, rather than veering off into the unknown. So consider starting your day with a quick review of what you accomplished yesterday and maybe what you didn't. Or ask, what's my priority for today? How will I ensure I follow through? Then finish the day with a second, smaller reflection. Did I meet that priority? If not, why? Keep it factual and solution-oriented. Over time, this simple ritual cements a mindset of consistent self-responsibility that becomes second nature. Before long, you'll feel the difference. Tasks that once lingered undone now get handled promptly. Goals that used to gather dust feel alive and attainable. And your confidence builds because each day you see proof that you can trust yourself to meet your own standards. That's the priceless gift of habit number 6. A steady, unwavering commitment to your own potential, made real by consistent, honest follow-through on your intentions. Next, the 7th habit is about the power of intentional renewal. Many run themselves ragged chasing goals, convinced that relentless hustle is the only path to success. Yet, the most effective people understand that steady peaks come from honoring your body and mind's need for rejuvenation. This habit isn't about indulgence or idleness. It's about strategically recharging so you can perform at your highest capacity when it truly counts. Think of the farmer who never lets the field rest. Eventually, even the richest soil depletes its nutrients and the harvest suffers. You're not so different. When you refuse to pause, refusing to restore your mental, emotional, and physical energy, you gradually lose the sharpness and creativity that set you apart. In the short run, you might produce results through sheer stamina, but over the long stretch, exhaustion and burnout creep in, undermining all your efforts. Intentional renewal can manifest in simple forms. Maybe you carve out a short midday break to step outside and breathe fresh air, letting the sunshine refill your spirit. Perhaps you schedule a restful weekend once a month, guarding that time from work obligations or hectic chores. Or you set a cutoff in the evening. No more tasks past a certain hour, allowing your mind to relax before sleep. These pockets of calm might look insignificant on the surface, but they protect you from a downward spiral of fatigue. Some interpret renewal as laziness. They brag about burning the midnight oil, about pushing so hard they can hardly stand. But that approach often leads to diminishing returns. The mind, starved of rest, becomes sluggish. Errors multiply, passion wanes, and cynicism can set in. Meanwhile, the person who respects their own energy cycles remains fresh, engaged, and able to innovate. They show up fully when duty calls and maintain that level of performance for years, not just weeks or months. Renewal involves stepping away from routine to gain a broader perspective. If you're perpetually stuck in the grind, you can't see beyond the immediate tasks. But when you take a break, maybe a leisurely walk or an afternoon spent quietly reading, you allow your subconscious to process challenges from new angles. Countless breakthroughs occur when people stop fixating on a problem, letting their mind roam free instead. That spark of insight you've been chasing sometimes appears only once you've stepped away from the daily to-do list. Proper rest stabilizes your emotions. Overtired people often experience heightened irritability and reduced patience. Minor setbacks loom large, shaking confidence and draining motivation. By ensuring you have pockets of relaxation, whether it's sleep, a soothing hobby, or moments of solitude, you keep emotional fluctuations in check. That emotional steadiness enables you to handle surprises with composure and solve disputes without escalating tension. It's important to note that renewal is proactive, not reactive. Too many people only slow down when they crash. They wait until an illness forces them to pause or until relationships falter due to neglect. By making renewal a daily or weekly habit, you avoid these crisis points. You maintain a consistent ebb and flow of effort and rest, doing so preserving the energy needed for the next big push, rather than dragging yourself along with empty reserves. This habit includes small acts of physical self-care, staying hydrated, stretching muscles tense from hours at a desk, fueling your body with nourishing foods, and allowing yourself the calm required for decent sleep. Perhaps you don't see how drinking enough water or taking a minute stretch break can multiply your success. Yet combine these mini habits over time, and you're less prone to headaches, less susceptible to midday crashes, and better prepared to make sound decisions. The body and mind function as one unit, so any step to sustain their well-being directly impacts your capacity to excel. Imagine a top athlete. They schedule training with deliberate recovery intervals, knowing that muscle growth and resilience form most effectively during rest. The same principle applies to your pursuit of success. Your mind, like a muscle, needs intervals of calm for new knowledge to settle and creative ideas to flourish. If you chronically skip those intervals, you overstrain the mind, reducing its elasticity. Then each day you tackle tasks with a mind that's already worn thin. Some people see rest as optional or a reward for hitting a milestone. Yet the most successful know it's integral to daily life. They refuse to push rest aside until the weekend or the next vacation. Instead, they weave small restorative moments into each day. A brisk walk, a reflective pause after lunch, a playful conversation that's non-work related. These small breaks act like resets, ensuring that by the time you're tackling late afternoon responsibilities, you're not running on fumes. Renewal wards off chronic stress, a silent thief of ambition and clarity. When stress builds unchecked, concentration falters, emotional balance deteriorates, and even the smallest tasks start feeling monumental. By scheduling daily or weekly practices that relieve tension, like gentle stretching, slow breathing, or a short creative hobby, you lower overall stress levels. This keeps you in a healthier state, ready to seize the moments of opportunity with a clear head and a resilient spirit. People wonder how this habit can multiply success overnight. It's because once you integrate deliberate rest, everything else you do gains efficiency. You sharpen your focus, bolster your creativity, and reduce errors caused by fatigue. It's like removing mental and emotional blockages that slow you down. Suddenly, tasks that took hours can be done in half the time. Decisions are made with more clarity, and your presence in collaborations or negotiations carries a calm authority. Embracing renewal isn't laziness, it's strategic. It's understanding the nature of performance peaks and valleys and choosing to replenish before you hit the bottom. In a world that glorifies endless hustle, you'll stand out as someone whose work remains consistently strong, unhampered by burnout cycles. And that consistency, that steady capacity to deliver quality, becomes a major catalyst in achieving your goals faster and with far less wear and tear. The path to these 7 habits may look simple, but once they become part of who you are, everything accelerates. It's as if you've turned tiny hidden gears that set much larger wheels in motion. Each habit builds on the others, creating a momentum that feels almost effortless once it's rolling. You're not merely adding new tasks to your day, you're transforming your core approach, the lens through which you see opportunity and the framework that guides your choices. Persistence, clarity, and intention become second nature. When these habits intertwine, you start each day anchored in calm reflection, progress through it with discipline and generosity, stay fueled by ongoing learning, refine your environment, hold yourself accountable, and recharge before the next big push. Suddenly, your efforts multiply not because you're racing harder, but because every action aligns with a purposeful system. It's not dramatic change all at once, it's a steady, visible shift in how you operate, how you think, and how you grow. And one day, almost overnight, the compound effect of these habits reveals itself in the strides you've made. Real success isn't elusive or locked behind grand secrets. It's right here in the quiet, powerful routines you choose to uphold day after day with unwavering commitment.